The following is a special presentation of iRacing on LSRTV, your home for sim racing.
At the southern tip of Seneca Lake, we are at Watkins Glen International. Tonight, for round number 8 of the SESRA Series 2018-2019 Championship. It's the left versus right 150, and 60 laps of racing action are on the docket here as we head to the first road course of the season. LSRTV's continuing coverage of the SESRA Series. And once again, David Schildhouse here, joined on the call by Rachel Whiteford and Taylor Fry, with the magical powers of Brent Wheeler bringing you tonight's sights and sounds. Before we get to the on-track action, Rachel, here we are, first road course race, always something that seemingly a lot of guys look forward to. There's always a small segment of guys that don't necessarily enjoy this. What makes the road course so appealing to some and absolutely so horrible for others?
You know what does that? It's the fact that this is such a different thing for stock car racing. Of course, it happens every year, but more importantly, this is not turning left. You know, everyone mocks NASCAR. Oh, it's all turning left. It's not. And you know what? The best part of this is that these guys get to come to a course that's the speedway of road courses. Watkins Glen is nothing like Sonoma. It's nothing like Montreal or the other courses we go to for these cars. Or, for example, the Truck Series at Mosport. This place is fast. It's like Daytona, but with right-hand corners. And this place brings out some exciting racing. You get some great close racing and fantastic action. So, road courses, they really spice things up. You get some really good rubbing and racing, and that's the best part of racing.
Absolutely right. And Taylor, welcome back for another week here of the SESRA Series. We got treated to a nice show last Thursday night, and here we are at the road course. So coming out here, 60 laps, 2 sets of tires to work with. You think these guys just take the approach of going 20, 20, and 20 laps to the end, or maybe shake things up a little bit?
Well, we're at a road course. If this was an oval, many of these drivers would have it easy. They know their strategy, but on a road course, strategy is always changing every single corner and every single lap because of how technical this track is and all that sort of stuff. So these drivers, they do want to split it 20, 20, and 20, but we're probably going to be seeing drivers who are going to be probably taking a set of tires early or a set of tires later than usual. We just don't know yet.
I imagine that the on-track action may set the tone for some of these drivers. As always, a little bit of disparity between top to bottom as they're about 1 minute left here in qualifying. We'll get to those qualifying results once they wrap up, but let's swing our attention over to the championship standings coming into tonight. 8 races in. Jeff Ward is the man who sits atop the point standings with a 6-point gap over Spencer Preet. Another 2 markers back to Derek Paulson there in your top 3. Mike Montesi, 18 points out. Sean Wilder there in 5th. So last week shook things up a little bit as Jeff Ward didn't absolutely have the run that he wanted to have. Still made a nice recovery, Rachel, but things tightened up just a little bit. And if practice times and qualifying times are any indication, these guys are all within the ballpark of each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what's going to make these races super exciting. There's a lot of close guys on the track, and this sort of place, it really brings out the excitement in that sort of factor. And unlike some series we've seen where there's been some runaway drivers, this could be really exciting and close to the front.
A lot still to battle. This is a 20-race season here, so not even quite to the halfway point. But the road course, certainly one race, Taylor, that can shake things up when it comes to the point standings. These guys got to be careful. There's a lot of opportunities to throw a good run away. High-speed corners, barriers everywhere. You go off, you're not just going into a sand trap in most of these corners. There's a wall that's going to greet you, and it could bring a premature end to your race.
Well, it just all depends on how you run these corners and how long you've been doing road racing on your iRacing profile. Now, many of these drivers on track right now have a lot of road course racing experience. Maybe some other drivers don't have much experience at all.
experience always plays a key here, and I see cars jumping on the grid, so that means that it's time to take a look at our LSRTV starting lineup. The man on the pole is going to be the 00 Spencer Preet with a great lap. Minute 9.552 to his outside will be the points leader, Jeff Ward, right there, minute 9.782, so about 0.2 of a second between the front row. Third place will go to Michael Cozy Jr. Fourth place will be Troy Radford, tonight driving the number 91. Fifth starting spot will be Rick Thompson. Mark Arthur rolling off from 6th. Ashton Schleiss there in 7th. And it's going to be Travis Brown from the 8th position.
Ninth place will go to Mike Montesi in the 7 car. And in 10th place, Derek Poulson in the 5. 11th place, Steve Ritter in the 16. And in 12th place, the 13 car of Matt Ridgway. Jonathan Smith will roll off 13th in the 23 machine. Brian McRae in 14th in the 35 machine.
It's going to be Taylor Butcher Benjamin in 15th. Jason Anderson in 16th. John Johnson rolling off from 17th in the number 24. Wally Wilson tonight aboard the 86. He'll be going off from the 18th position. David Neitzel in 19th. Kyle Vincent Gilbert in 20th. And I just was advised that KVG's using some paddle shifters as his pedals, so that's why he's going to be starting the pack, so he might have an adventure on his hands here tonight. Doug Johnson in the 88 will be rolling off from 21st. He's the last driver to take a time here in qualifying. The rest of your drivers filling out the starting lineup is going to be Fred Thompson in the 28, Zachary Sprung in the 21, and Jason Taylor in the 51. So that's going to be your 24-car starting lineup, and these guys are off and rolling. Green flag in the air. We're underway. The run down to turn 1 here. Can they make it clean? 3 wide. I already see them. Everybody gets through nice and clean. A little bit of a anxious start there as these guys rolled away, but managed to mind their P's and Q's as they get single file up through the top part of the running order. That's really what you want to do through the S's, Taylor, is be single file. Really hard to go side by side. It's just not advised.
The initial start is always the crazy start of a road course race, and once everybody gets nice and single filed out, then everybody starts running nice and clean. No stress, no worries for many drivers. Everybody's single filed out as they come to the carousel, and I ain't seeing nothing throughout the entire field. Not a whole lot of battles going on.
Big moment there for the 36 coming up through the S's there. Tipped sideways into guardrail, but just about makes it out, but no bodywork damage that will cost him a lot of performance.
Saw the 35 Brian McRae get a little assistance there going up the run up the hill into the S's, but kept it straight and a long way to go. 60 laps. You got to have some patience. I already saw Derek Paulson take it 3 wide into turn 1 as well. He didn't have a great qualifying run, and a man high up in the points, he definitely needed to get going. So you see these guys on these opening laps make some bold moves, and really it's about who's the most bold going into these braking zones. You got this long front straightaway doing 160 miles an hour, and you got to get slowed all the way down and really get on the brakes, but it's a great passing zone. There's a lot of great passing zones here at the Glen. Another reason a lot of drivers like it so much, it's not just right around. You got opportunities to attack your opposition.
I think Watkins Glen is just definitely one of those more easier road course tracks to learn your skills and all that sort of stuff. You got the Twin Ring Montegi, and you got Lime Rock and all those sorts of easier tracks, but I certainly believe that for the stock cars, Watkins Glen is definitely the best track to get your foot in the door for road course racing.
Yeah, compared to the other road course race that the NASCAR Cup Series visits, Sonoma, a little more technical track out there in California. This one's just sort of high speed and a little bit easier for the learning curve as Spencer Preet holds down the lead. Jeff Ward still there in second place, but a little more forgiving. You have that wide runoff area down there into turn 1, so just in case you don't quite get it right, you got some area to recover, but it's certainly not a track to take lightly, Rachel, as it can reach out and bite you pretty quickly if you lose track of where you are and you miss your entry, you miss the apex, or you get back to the gas too soon. There's a lot of ways this track can penalize you.
Yeah, absolutely, and technical problem solved. I can now see the racetrack, which is fantastic. But turn 1's actually one of the hardest corners here at Watkins Glen. You say it's got a lot of runoff, but you mess that corner up and you've got people around you, there's going to be a big crash. It's a massive braking zone, probably the hardest braking zone on the entire circuit, which is what the drivers have to really focus on. But one thing I do want to bring up, which is something I always talk about in road course races, especially when I'm covering things like Monday Night Skippies, we talk about the 1 second bracket. in qualifying, which is integral. Right now, the poles are 109.552. We look for the 110.5, and in this track, that's 4th place. Only 4 cars. So the number of cars that have got, or within that bracket, tells you how close the race will be. In this instance, not that close. 4 cars are within that 1 second bracket for a road course, which is integral. Here, if we were to talk about, for example, a 4 second bracket, that takes us all the way back to the rear of the field, so we're splitting this up one even more. Most road courses you see 1 or 2 seconds difference in the field. So stock cars is always something that brings out a big variety in drivers. Some guys are oval specialists who will suffer the road course week to just get their points, keep whatever they can hold on to. Have a look here though at Spencer Preet and Jeff Ward, 1st and 2nd, and Ward, strong driver in this series. He is really coming in close now towards the back of Preet, the 00, had a great launch, but it seems like Ward's reeling him in, and tyre preservation is a massive factor. Equal splits, good call for tyres, as they have 2 sets, of course, additionally for this race, but as it stands, you know, it's one of those factors where you really have to pay attention throughout that run, because on a road course, it bites you even more. Looking at the 5 car now.
Jumping on board with Derek Paulson here as he's riding in the tire tracks of Mark Arthur in the 12. Going down the short chute here, we'll call it, coming up to the latter portions of this lap as they set up for the last left hand, right hand before the front straightaway. Derek Paulson up to the 8th running position, I should say. So good run up through the field for him from his starting spot, getting back to where he really wants to be. He's made some good moves, and you get a sense working around this racetrack of just how fast you go down these straightaways. Got slow corners, long straightaways build up a lot of speed, and it just, you don't think you're going that fast until you're in the driver's seat and you're really wailing, because you lose that sense of speed sometimes at road courses. But Watkins Glen, Taylor, never really lets you forget just how fast you're going down these straightaways.
And if you lose that sense of speed, you're not going to be having a good corner whatsoever. And Watkins Glen, while being one of the easiest tracks to run in the stock cars, it can be very unforgiving for just a slight mistake will cause you to spin out or overdrive into the sand trap. It's very difficult. When you lose that sense of speed, you're going to be making a mistake, so you got to be on your toes. And for a lot of oval drivers, it's tough coming from oval to road courses unless you've had a lot of road course experience, which a lot of these drivers have had a lot of road course experience, and so on and so forth. So many drivers in here don't lose that sense of speed. Maybe every driver here has a lot of sense of speed as they go through this race.
You know, some guys come into a road course saying, I just want to survive. I just want to keep the car on the track, make all the laps, and get out of here with the best finish that I can. And they feel accomplished with that, Rachel. They feel like that's the best way to go about it, is maybe not go into it expecting a win or hoping for a win.
Sorry to cut you off, but this is the prime example of what I talked about with Turn 1. Having a quick look back if we get a replay. This is what the 7 of Montesi coming in behind the 13 of Ridgway. Ridgway comes into Turn 1, cooks it hard on the brakes there, goes for the apex, locks the rear there, and gets sideways, runs wide. 7 comes through, no problem for him there. The 16 of Steve Ritter gets through there as well. And that's the biggest mistake you can make in Turn 1. Overcooking, hitting an apex, and it bumps you wide in the corner. You see that on screen now. But that is exactly what you don't want to do, and it costs you momentum. And momentum is one of the biggest things for road courses that you don't talk about on ovals, because ovals is kind of assumed. Road courses, this is where you've got to keep the flow going. If you lose momentum in anywhere, that is going to cost you another corners in the lap. Sometimes sacrificing the right line through a corner is good to make sure you keep the flow for the next sequence of corners, and that's something oval drivers don't tend to really get. We're looking back at live pictures of that now, but it's momentum. And if you botch it on Turn 1, that screws your entry through to Turn 2, and all the way up the S's in the backstretch, which is exactly what happened there to Ridgway in the 13. It completely cost him for that whole lap. Now he's at the back of that group. He's pushing harder, and again, trying to keep it going. There's the 7 of Montesi, goes very wide, but that's an acceptable wide. He cooked it, realised it, let the car drift out, and came back with a decent line to carry speed up through the S's here. And it actually gave him a bit of a gap. So sometimes realising your mistake early is a big advantage, and with these guys, the iRacing service gives you a massive advantage over real life, where these guys drive stock cars. They come up with late models, super lates, you know, into the K&N series. They're driving stock cars, most on ovals. Here, you can drive Formula 1, GT, NASCAR, anything you want to. So it means these guys are far more talented when it comes to road driving. But in predominantly American series, especially the oval series, you tend to get a higher percentage of guys who just do oval. So you see that spread. But that was a keen example there of racing and making different lines through the same corner. Looking back up towards the 12 here of Mark Arthur. He's running now in his group here with Ashton Scheiss, Rick Thompson, and Troy Bradford. I'll see how they work together in a group heading through turn 1 now. And it's a nice clean run for all 4 cars there. Making it through that corner in a nice measured manner. Turn 1 is the biggest braking mark you've got. You're actually braking about the 150 meter board there from the corner. Yeah, that's 150 meters back from your turning point. That's a long, long way, because that's actually very steep straight for the start-finish line, really downhill, which means these guys are having to put a huge amount of pressure on some very tiny brakes on these cars, and it's actually meaning that they have to really kind of tie the car up, and you can really jump the brakes there. You can get some wheel hop going on if you're not careful. And later on, when you've got old tyres, that brake marker comes all the way back, and that's something else these guys have to think about on roads. The braking, it has to come back as the tyres wear down. So you might brake at, 50 on one corner, then it has to be 75, then 100, then 125 as the tyres wear throughout a run. 20 laps at Watkins Glen isn't bad. We should see degradation there, but it's not going to be a huge amount. And the tyre deg is something that's absolutely massive for a road course. But the one car I'm looking at in this group here is the Thompson in the 29th. That's not even Thompson. Why is this order wrong? Because I'm looking at everything ranked in grid order, which makes complete sense now I think about it, rather than race order. The 19 there of Scheiss is in the 5th spot. He's getting right up here behind the 91 of Troy Radford. And he's really pushing hard now to try and get up to the back there of Radford. But it's going to be an uphill battle for him, not just because they're climbing now through the S's, which makes this sequence pretty difficult, but he's got a car ahead of them. That could be a useful pick, but when you're sitting behind somebody, finding an opportunity to pass, especially at Watkins, is really difficult. You've got to usually force them into a mistake. They go past the lap car there, no problems for them. Normally a dive is good at the bus stop, but that could be pretty tricky too. Carousel is possible, but usually into turn 1 is the giving passing spot here. And I'll stop talking finally.
You mentioned something about like little brakes and all that sort of stuff. The stock cars are definitely the hardest to master the braking and all that sort of stuff, because these things aren't like the Audis or the Porsches or like typical road course cars where you can brake and you'll master the braking pretty easily. You mess up braking, you'll lock them up, or you'll overdrive the entry of a corner. So stock cars are definitely the hardest to master braking, and these cars are not made for road course racing. So it makes it even better when you figure out how to master the braking and all that sort of stuff.
A well-accomplished road racer said, slow in, fast out. That's the way you want to attack the corners on a road course. We go side by side with Mark Arthur and 01 of Travis Brown. Brown completes the pass there for the 6th position, but a lot of guys coming into road courses that aren't necessarily experienced on them think they can make up the time on corner entry, and so they overdrive the entry and use up the brakes, use up those tires. And then they kill their corner speed and ultimately kill their exit speed. And a track like Watkins Glen that has these long, high-speed straightaways, if you don't get your exit right, you are ruining that straightaway. You're going to get passed. You're not going to be passing people. So that's part of the learning process when it comes to driving stock cars, a road course, or any car, really, I should say, is slow in, fast out, master the exit, get down the straightaways well, and you'll find yourself having a lot more success. Certainly, you can attack corner entry and make a bold move, but that's really not the best way to do it. If you can get to the gas and get off these corners to get down the long straightaways better than your competition, you're going to be in really good shape. And, Rachel, you'll be taking care of your equipment at the same time, which you alluded is very important to do.
Exactly, and you keep that momentum, which is what I talked about earlier, and the momentum is the flow through the corner. And it's going to be a measured move through that segment of wide to the middle to the apex and then tracking out the exit. That line varies depending on how tight the corner is, but it's all part of that process. And one thing I actually want to quickly bring up is the difference in what these guys are using in terms of equipment. A lot of guys in the stock cars, they'll merrily sit there using perhaps paddle shifters on the controller. We talked about Carl Vincent Gilbert using paddles for his throttle and brake, and we can see exactly how that's working for him down in 22nd as he spins out nearly in the penultimate corner, because he's got basically he's basically playing a racing game like we all did when we were kids on the WASD keys or the arrow keys. You know, he's got go and stop. There's no sort of variation in that, so I'm surprised he's still on the track. That's pretty amazing. But the one thing I want to talk about is some guys will use paddle shifters. But it's a road course, it's easy, you know? And that's actually a downside in my eyes, because whilst you have to go up and down gears, you have to click multiple times. works for Formula cars, but of course in the stock cars you've got a H-pattern gearbox and the real thing, and if you've got a shifter in your car, that's useful. You can go from 4th gear down to 2nd in a corner if you need to for a massive braking corner in a slow corner. And the big advantage you have there, of course, is with the style of braking these cars and the gearbox, you don't have a clutch. They're dog boxes, which means you basically kick the throttle and downshift. You rev match, downshift. So these guys coming into these corners, it's a big juggling act because they're coming in with these big heavy cars, tiny little brakes, and it's... We'll look at Spencer Preet actually for a brief moment and take a look where he is. He's coming through the carousel right now, which is not a good example, but the next one here is going to be a great example. About here, he starts braking, then kicks the throttle down to 2nd gear, pointed at the apex, tracks out. He's a little bit wide there, actually, which is not a tight line to the corner. You really wanted to get that right to the apex, and one of the advantages of the stock cars being so heavy and stiff in terms of how they handle is you can actually get up on those curbs and use the curb to rotate the car by carrying more speed through, clip the curb, and it just turns you somewhat. As long as you keep some gas on, you're not going to spin out. But here's a good example. Turn 1, right on the apex line there, tracks it out, use the exit room he's got, keeps it going with that momentum. Great lap time that time by. And it's that process of arrive at the corner, braking. Whilst you're still braking, you're kicking that throttle, dropping it into the next gear down, or the gear you require for that corner. And as you come out of the corner, you have to wait there. You're off the throttle through the apex. And as soon as you exit the corner, bang, back on the gas, powering away, and that's keeping the momentum flowing in the car.
So, I gotta say, I'm greatly appreciative for the absolute classroom that you are setting up here for us and discussing all the unique aspects of no, I'm serious. I truly mean it, because for us, for the viewers, and people who come back and watch this after the fact, it's truly a much different science of slinging a stock car around a road course.
He got very sideways there. Sorry, David, to cut you off, but he got very sideways in the penultimate corner, and that's bringing Ward right up to the back of him. So it could be that he's wearing his tyres down. Lap 13 now. They're getting a little bit hot, and they're getting a bit more slick. They're not really got the same grip level. So that car right up behind him is definitely going to hurt him right now. He has to pay attention to that and make sure he's backing those corners up now, taking those precautions you talked about, of course, making sure he comes back a little bit in the corner, gets out of the corner faster. And that is about getting out of the corner. The entry to the corner doesn't matter. Get in there as slow as you need to. As long as you get out fast, that's where all the speed comes from. And look at this now. Ward, far better exit. Didn't slide his tyres as much, and he's going to be able to get out of there with no problems whatsoever. Isn't close enough for a pass yet, but the lap traffic up ahead will be a major factor for them now.
So far, they've had no trouble getting through the lap traffic. The slower guys being very respectful, as we've come to expect here in the SESRA series. Everybody does a nice job minding their P's and Q's, and Spencer Preet holding down this lead, trying to hold off the advances of Jeff Ward. We've seen it all season. Jeff Ward just continues to be the master of the long run. He may not always put down the fastest lap time every lap, but over the course of the long run, he's the guy that's able to put together the most consistent lap times and take care of his equipment the best so that he can be the fastest at the end. And now 14, almost starting lap 15 here, more than halfway through what we expect to be a tire run if they do 2020. A lot of cars here. Oh my goodness, this could get a little hairy, but Jeff Ward, it can just cruise. He's just following Spencer Preet. They're getting real close. This makes me anxious. I don't know, Taylor. These guys, they know what's going on, but you worry that somebody's going to slip up and make a mistake.
These lappers, they're being notified that the leaders are right behind them, but this track is not very wide, and it's very difficult to put these heavy cars to the side, especially when you're going a little fast. That's good English. These cars are definitely hard to move out of the way, especially if you're taking a corner too wide, or if you're doing it just right, it'll be nice enough, but there's no issues here for Preet. Maybe a little issue for Ward as he lost a lot of time.
Navigating slower cars can definitely be the difference between being out front and being second, or being on the rear bumper of that leader and all of a sudden finding yourself over a second behind, and that's where Jeff Ward finds himself right now. But Kyle Vincent Gilbert, the next one to go a lap down. In front of him, David Neitzel in the 77, and KVG just moves over down the front straightaway and lets Spencer Preet have it. Just not the night that Kyle Vincent Gilbert was looking to have, but when you're facing a deficit with the equipment issues that you're having and you're not really comfortable, it's hard to get around a road course. As he keeps it straight, but boy, that's close, but they get through nonetheless, and he's starting to put a lot of cars lap down here. I don't know, I expected coming in, Rachel, that we were going to have maybe, I don't know, 5 to 10 cars that were going to be somewhat competitive, and maybe another grouping of 3 that would probably be the best cars. But right now, it's just a 2-car shootout. Michael Cozy Jr. in third is about 7 seconds back from the leaders.
Now, this is one of those places where you see a major separation in performance, and I was impressed Calvin Gilbert and his on-off power back there kept that one straight, but you see much more separation in the stock car series on the road courses. And I mean, as I kind of want to explain kind of why I'm talking so much about this stuff, this was my specialty in iRacing. For some reason, whilst I really loved oval racing and it was my prime thing, I was just good at the stock cars on the road courses. That was my bag, and I really enjoyed racing these things. And there's an art form to it. It's a very weird kind of racing. You're heaving a car around, and it's actually, even for sim racing, it's probably the most tough racing you can do in terms of physical exertion. You are really have to be on it, because these things are wild animals. I think the only thing I could put it close to is V8 supercars. They're just ridiculous. But at the moment, you see a big separation in speeds. You've got guys who can just get it, who are good, and then you've got people who are pretty competent, and then you've got people who are okay, and then you've got the rest of the field. It's unfortunately that simple, that you just have the breakaway at the front, the guys who can do it, and then you've got the rest of that pack sat together. We've got 18 seconds back. Pretty much then you're talking 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds apart for the rest of the field. So it's 4th place and the rest is everybody else. But this stuff is all about trying to handle the car. It's not racing the car. You've got to let the car do what it wants to do. And that's one of the things people try and forget, is they're used to oval racing, where they can basically manage that car and the car wants to do it. In this sort of racing, you've got to let the car race you. You've got to actually let it go where it wants to. You're just guiding it. It's like a horse. You know, you've got to try and let it follow its own nose. You're kind of pointing it in the right direction as we look at the battle for 7th place here. You let it find its nose, but you're just going to give it a little bit of tug on the reins, a little bit of a kick with the heel, just nudge it gently and just encourage it in the right direction. You don't force it, because if you force it, it's going to bite you here. As the 01, Travis Brown, looking for Mark Arthur ahead of him. No, it's Paulson just got past there, Travis Brown, I believe, and they're coming up on 2 cars ahead of them. It's Arthur and Radford. Although I think they might actually be other lap down cars. I think one of them is actually relevant here. That is Mark Arthur, the 12 car. Radford's up ahead of them with Scheiss, as that's the battle there for 4th place with Scheiss and Radford. They're moving forwards. Brown, though, he's still in this fight. He's got time to go, and they're coming up on the pit stops, I think. You would say about 20 laps. They've got the tyres for it. Why not do it? You know, 20 laps, then lap 40. Yeah, makes total sense. It's a great split in terms of keeping this one apart. And, oh god, there's a car upside down. That was different.
I guess we'll call the flip count at 1, and we have a new leader as well. Jeff Ward takes over the lead from Spencer Preet, so put Ward out front on lap number 18, as he will assume the point, and Spencer Preet holding on there. I think did an admirable job managing those tires when we thought he was losing a lot of time to Ward. But eventually succumbs to the attack, and Jeff Ward now out front. We'll go to the replay of that flipped-over race car, which I believe was Wally Wilson in the 86.
A solo flip. That's impressive at Watkins, Glen. That is really impressive. Oh, my God.
As he just got it all wrong going up the hill through the S's. Hit that outside barrier, and he just tried to hold on to it, not get in the way of Michael Cozy, and hits the outside barrier there, and the tire, I guess, digs into the wall and flips him over, and he does a nice little roof slide up the S. Is not the ideal way you want to do that, but Taylor, we'll put the flip count at 1 for Wally Wilson, as he's back on pit road and probably thinking, boy, that was not what I really wanted to do.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate. It's very difficult to flip a car here at Watkins Glen, and Wally just ended up doing that, and we have 1 on the flip counter and 1 on the lead change counter.
So 1-for-1 exchange there. Jeff Ward on the better end of it for sure. And now we'll just see if it does come to pass that these guys do the 2020 pit stop strategy, which I don't see why they wouldn't, Rachel. Is there anything that would provoke them to do something other than that, the obvious?
I don't know. It's one of those situations that you only really see at road courses, but yeah, it can happen. One thing I'm really focusing on right now is how Ward has once again been a late race horse. Like we saw it, I keep mentioning horses for some darn reason. We saw it at Dover. Jeff Ward just had what he needed towards the end of things, and it really mattered. Preet was always a quick off the line guy, but it didn't really last later on.
I've talked about this in the past. Some guys like to follow a car around the track. They're more comfortable doing that. They can hit their marks better and sort of manage their tires. Some guys don't mind being out front and setting their lap times, and they can do that without that visual landmark out the windshield. Jeff Ward strikes me as a guy, as we've seen throughout this season, that is comfortable in either position, and maybe Spencer Preet was a little bit ahead of his pace of where he really wanted to be and lost some off of the tires for the long run here, as he's since given up the lead a couple of laps ago to Jeff Ward. But here we are on lap 20. Do they make the move to pit road? That'll be the big question here. It doesn't appear either one of them will this time by. So that'll at least throw that strategy out the window for these guys. We'll keep an eye on it, as others I'm sure will make that trip down pit road. But now the question is, when do they pit? Will somebody go for an undercut? That's always a thing. Spencer Preet's really good into the corner, but just loses a lot of time off the corners. You can't get the power down.
I'm not really too sure what the tire wear is like here. I know if you're really overdriving the car, it's not good. The tire wear is going to be very, very brutal, but I'm not seeing much of speed decreasing from Jeff Ward. His last lap time was just 2 seconds off of his best lap time, so even though there is some tire wear, with just 21 laps about to be completed, these drivers may come down in the next couple of laps, take one set of tires, and we'll just have to see how this continues going, as Preet just really overdrove that the exit of that corner. Lost some time there, but I think he gained just a little bit of it back heading into turn 7.
These guys are pretty neck and neck for the most part, Rachel. I don't see a whole lot of separation, even with the 9 out front now and Preet falling into second place. He's not losing gobs of time. He's staying within a half a second for the most part of Ward. And so doing a nice job even there. So when you get ready for a pit stop, is once again, he goes real deep into one. You just get such an appreciation for how deep you can drive it in, but you see the momentum lost off of the exit of the corner there. How far do you really want to push it if you're Spencer Preet? Is there something that he can do other than an undercut, pitting a lap early of when he thinks Jeff Ward will pit, that will ultimately put him back out in front of the 9?
To be honest, considering I've just been passed because my tyres aren't doing so great, if I'm Spencer Preet, I'd have been in pit road already. I mean, we're on lap 22 here, and if he doesn't come in this time by, I think he's actually insane, because it's clear his tyres have gone off. He's bombed a couple of corners here, and it's time to head to pit road. You've got 2 spare sets of tyres. Use them. They're all sitting there on the pit wall for you. Come in and grab them. Screw Jeff Ward. Do your own laps. And one of the things that I always kind of focused on as a leader when I was in front of a race was that you're not racing to go as fast as you can. The best way to race is to sit 1 second ahead of your second place car or whatever bracket you've got, as neither of them come in again. Why? Why? Spencer Preet, you not pitting. But the trick was always to basically maintain a gap. Now, typically a road course, the second gap is fairly plausible. I always aimed to keep a second gap to second place. Why? Because typically they're driving as hard as they can to try and catch and pass you. So if you're faster than them, just keep a second. Doesn't matter whether you win by a tenth of a second, 10 seconds, you still win. Maintain the gap at a second, because it's a nice round marker, and that way, clearly, if you're holding that second bracket, you're not overusing your tyres because you've got stuff in the bag. As oh my god, problems for Jeff Ward! Big impact there, will cost him a lot, as there's going to be a slowdown penalty for Preet, I think. As he chopped that corner like a Canadian lumberjack. He's going to go round the outside there of the 9 as replay for you there as, oh my god. That was just unfortunate as he just butchers the entry, sees the car, hits the 28 car, slap bang in the middle of that corner, side on. That's going to be big damage for Jeff Ward as back goes Preet round the front of him. Didn't get a slowdown, I don't think. But that was, I think, that was Fred Thompson, the 28 car, as I think he's going to want to come into pit road now. This is perfect time for Preet. Hit pit road, he's damaged, he wants to come, and yet they stay out again. Have we made a mistake here about this whole 2 sets of tyres deal? Have they got 1 set? Are they going for lap 30 or something? Because if I was in their car and I had 2 sets of tyres, I could split it 20-20-20, I'd have been on lap 20. Screw this. These cars and old tyres are horrible. There is no easy way to put it. They're disgusting. They're nasty. They wheel hop into corners. They slide. They don't turn. They're a mess on old tyres. So if you got it, come in.
I couldn't agree more, to be honest with you. Going off of the official document provided that we've been using week after week here, it said 2 sets of tires. So I don't know what to tell you there. I'm very surprised that we're here on lap 24 and neither of these guys have pitted yet. I'm looking up. I don't see anybody having hit pit road yet, so perhaps they did change it. Didn't tell us up here in the broadcast booth and said you guys got one set of tires, which I think would prompt the pit at lap 30 phenomenon. So perhaps that did change. We just don't know about it, but just really unfortunate for Jeff Ward as he was out there minding his own business and comes up on a slower car that couldn't decide where he wanted to go and just drove right into him. Big damage on the left front fender there of the number 9, and these guys still continue to bypass pit road. So, Taylor, I think we can just probably adopt the fact that they altered the rules, said one set of tires, so maybe lap 30, as Mike Montesi, I've been told, has gone around as well in the final corner. Unfortunate for him. But this thing just got shaken up just a little bit as Jeff Ward takes on damage, loses time to Spencer Preet, and is in a real precarious position here.
Well, both these lead changes have been coming from lap traffic just being in the way, so the only thing that Jeff Ward can really hope for right now is Spencer Preet getting into it with a couple of the slow cars just ahead of him. And what we've seen today, that's not out of the question.
Seemingly nothing's out of the question. Maybe even a rules change, a late-minute rules change for us, Rachel. But even still, if that's the curveball that we've been thrown and these guys are going to pit at lap 30, that takes some of the drama out of it, I think, with a halfway pit stop and nothing else after that. These guys have done a great job of keeping it green up to this point. No yellow flags or nothing. And I don't want to jinx it by saying that, but Jeff Ward at this point, he's really got to go into full damage control mode, no pun intended, as he's got a beat-up race car and he's lost a lot of track time to Spencer Preet.
He absolutely has, and you know what? One of the big things to practice at a road course and get right, especially in these cars, is your pit stops. You gain huge amounts of time on pit entry and pit exit because they're pretty much always under green, and getting that right is a massive advantage for you because you can save time, you could get a big advantage over your competitors. Getting these things into a pit box on old tyres is something you should really practice too, because coming in on fresh tyres when you're just practicing is easy. Coming on old tyres, it's horrible. It takes a lot of practice. And you can, over time, watch your encounter just do lap in, lap out, lap in, lap out constantly. And that gets you into a rhythm where you can look at your data and see exactly how well you're doing. And the big thing you can help you with that is dual reel timing. Dual reel timing, whether you spend your time on iRacing behind the wheel, on the pit box, or the spotter stand, it is the go-to timing and scoring software for iRacing timing and scoring analytics. Get yourself a free download at joel-reel-timing.com. That is joel-reel-timing.com, or get yourself a pro version with far more tools for one small payment. Go check them out today.
Always appreciate the support shown by our friends over at Joel Real Timing, bringing you all the fancy scoring and timing metrics as these cars work around this 2.5-mile road course. It's still Spencer Preet out front. Jeff Ward holding on by about a second or so in second place. Michael Cozy Jr. now in third, about 8.5 seconds back, I believe. Or no, 10 seconds back, I apologize. In the 99 as well. So third place way out of this thing. These top two guys have been dueling pretty much since the drop of the green flag. And Taylor, I guess we're expecting a halfway pit stop between these two. But Jeff Ward, just go inside the mind of the driver now, knowing you got damage on the left front, which may not be hampering him a whole lot, but it will hurt you down these straightaways. But definitely worn tires after sliding him, trying to avoid the 28. What does he have to do over the next couple laps to minimize the amount of time that he's going to lose to Spencer Preet?
It's very difficult. As long as he's assessed the damage correctly, which it looks like he has, because he hasn't been making too many mistakes, nor has he lost so much time. He just has to continue running his pace and hope that he doesn't overdrive a quarter or whatever, and also hope that Spencer Preet can have a mistake with some of these lappers and other sorts of stuff like that before they head down pit road. Because not only that, but I do think Spencer Preet has some front end damage, so even Preet may have some extra time down pit road as well, but not a lot of time. Not like what Jeff Ward's gonna have unless otherwise. But Spencer Preet has had some contact with some cars I've seen throughout today. Not so much as Jeff Ward, as he really takes turn one wide, but Jeff Ward does the same. Just, it's damage control all the way for Jeff Ward, but he doesn't want to go in too much of protective mode to where he loses so much time that he won't be able to battle with Preet heading into these final 30 laps.
I think you're right in that assessment. He's got to drive within himself like he's done all season long, and certainly nothing would tell us that he would do otherwise. Certainly not his own fault of what happened on track, and that's really the last thing you expect to have happen, Rachel, is a guy that you've gotten around a few times at this point in lap to suddenly be in your way and run into him, as Spencer Preet now pulls up to the back bumper of the 35 of Brian McRae to put him a lap down. But I think if Jeff Ward can hang out about a second or so back from Spencer Preet before they make their pit stops, he can take some time, fix that damage, but he knows all he's doing is losing time if he fixes the damage. So from what you see on that number 9, how much time does he need to devote to fixing that car up if he's going to be competitive?
You know what? I need to take a little bit of a closer look at his car right now, and I'm going to do just that with one of the benefits of iRacing. I can change my camera, and I can go basically floating around his car like I'm some sort of deity. As actually, looking at the front of it, the radiator itself seems fine, so I don't think he's got any overheating issues. The front left corner looks to be absolutely great condition. There's obviously some desync, of course, between what we see and what he has, but most of the damage seems centered around the front right corner. Now, with this being a mostly left-handed or right-hand corner track, this isn't terrible for him. This is probably the best place he could get damage if there's a good place for it, because it means most of his turns are heading into that corner. The arrow is going to be coming over that right-hand side of the car, or left-hand side, I should say. Getting mixed up because I'm looking at it from the front right now. It's not huge. I'd say that's maybe 30 seconds at most, but on a road course, he can't give that away. He's got to just come in, get his tyres, get his fuel, and go. He can't afford to take it. I think he's handling fine so far. I think this is a tyre age issue right now, and we'll see the real speed of this machine once he gets on fresh rubber.
Well, we're coming up to the start of lap 30 here, so we'll keep an eye on these guys and see if they do come in next time by. Spencer Preet will bypass pit road. And Jeff Ward is on pit road. Yeah, so the number 9 takes the opportunity to come in, coming to lap 30, which I think is something we would all agree is the right thing to do at this point. So he'll come down, get his service. We'll see if he takes any time to fix up the car. I would imagine, Taylor, this would drag Spencer Preet to pit road next time by.
If anything, this is the definite reason why Spencer Preet will be coming down, if not this time by, next time by. I'll be keeping an eye on Jeff Ward's pit time to make sure if he's tracking any damage repairs or whatnot. The usual time is 13 seconds, and he's definitely on pit road, and if he did any damage repairs, it was slight, because it was just a 16-second stop. So if he did any damage repairs, it was very slight, but he'll be back out and hopefully running back up to the front in no time.
Yeah, pretty quick pit stop there. I don't think he took too much opportunity to fix a whole lot of damage there at 16 seconds. Maybe a smack of the hammer once or twice. We'll look at the 00 here and see if he now comes to pit road, which I would imagine strategy-wise would be the right thing to do as you're halfway through this race. But, what the heck do I know? Spencer Preet says otherwise, and like usual, these drivers continue to prove me wrong, Rachel.
I think he can afford to, though, because right now he knows Jeff Ward isn't an immediate threat. Jeff Ward on fresh tyres isn't going to be the sort of speed we're expected from him, so he knows initially he's faster, plus Jeff Ward does have damage, which is going to be holding him back on top-end speed. So Preet has had more tyre degradation, which is something you need to be aware of there. Preet's tyres have gone off way more than Jeff Ward's. So he was staying ahead of Jeff Ward because Jeff Ward was damaged. Therefore, on fresh tyres, it's going to be a far bigger difference. So Preet should be fine, to be honest. I mean, I expect he might come in this time by. He's in the bus stop right now, and he's, of course, got time to do so as he's handling lap traffic. And that's another factor, of course, to win these races. How well you handle lap traffic. That is something you've really got to be good at, of course, because in road course it happens more often, especially in stock car road course racing, where the field is spread out so much. And that's a major, major impact. You have a better run through corners, and you get through the traffic better, you get past them in the right places, you pick where you get past them, because, running up on them and just going for it is a thing, as Preet looks to be coming in this time by, as well as Vincent Gilbert, which is a very brave move to pit behind Vincent Gilbert with no modulation whatsoever of his speed. That's taking your life into your own hands a little bit, but here comes Preet for his pit stop. It's lap 32 we'll be on when he starts this. So he's got another lap over him. He'll have a lap fresher tyres towards the end, which is good for him. We know his deg drop-off is much higher at the end. So this gives him an extra lap of a little bit of wiggle room. But we'll see him come into a stop now. Nice and easy for him as he gets into that box very perfectly. One in and stopped. Goes up for the left-hand side tyres. We'll go up for the right-side tyres. Of course, weird for the pit crews in real life because they're pitting in the opposite direction to the way they used to. They actually have to have specific practice for this stuff, as here comes Jeff Ward coming through the final corner now. But Preet's already down and away, going through the first corner here. And out he will come. Back onto the racetrack at an advantage over... Oh, interesting. I think Jeff Ward actually got out ahead of him, but we should see Preet catch him here with the difference because he's coming out on a lap or two fresher tyres. And I think it was just a matter of entry lines that Ward had. Let's look at Ward's last lap. That was an 11.7 for him, and that was a full chat lap in terms of not being the lap he pitted out on. Looking at his laps at the very start of this race will tell us a lot of information. 110.02, 110.06, all 110s up to lap 7. And we look at him now after he's come back out from pit road, and they're at least a second off what he had, so I suspect we'll see Preet come up much, much faster. His laps at the start of the race were 09 was his fastest lap, and that's the fastest lap of the race. And then 10s now. We'll see what he can pull off and see if he can actually get himself further forwards as well, because the gap's already coming down.
Well, I think
let's take this opportunity here to, now that we're a little bit past the halfway point, we'll take this opportunity to take a look at our iRacing at Midway race break. Brought to you by iRacing, the world's premier online racing game, with professionally organized racing from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, and more. As they run right now, it is Jeff Ward out front, Spencer Preet in second, chasing him down of speed. It's going to be Troy Radford in third, Michael Cozy Jr. back to fourth, Ashton Schleiss giving a great ride in that 19 in fifth, Jonathan Smith up to sixth from the 13th starting position. Well done for him. Mark Arthur in seventh, Matt Ridgway eighth, Travis Brown in ninth, and Derek Paulson runs out your top 10.
P11 tonight is going to be Brian McRae, Steve Ritter in 12th place with Rick Thompson in 13th. Taylor Butcher-Benjamin is in 14th. Of course, 13th, 14th, first car's lap down. Doug Johnson, who's just coming off pit road. Zachary Sprung, John Johnson 17th with Jason Anderson, Mike Montesi. And, oh, big crash there for the 7 of Montesi in 19th. 20 is Taylor, Calvin Gilbert, David Nitzel, Fred Thompson, Wally Wilson, Kevin Dye. And we'll have a quick look back on replay of the 7th crash whilst you give us our outro.
Well, that's been a look at your iRacing at Midway race break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, visit iRacing.com to sign up today. As Mike Montesi had himself a bit of an incident on the racetrack, and that's unfortunate for him as he came in pretty strong in the point standings.
Oh, Cozy. That was Cozy. Oh. That was Cozy from third place who just well, Montesi was slow, but Cozy just braked. Didn't even wait, went straight into the back of him and dumped him, so Cozy's got some big damage there, which could really cost him against the likes of Scheiss.
Cozy goes off there as well, so struggles for the 99 here. We'll take a look at this from Michael Cozy Jr.'s point of view as he gets down into the inner loop, and I think he just cooked it a little too much and used the 7 as an unintentional break. I think he was focused on the 24 and maybe missed his braking zone, just pile drives right into him, sending Montesi into the blue barrier. That's unfortunate for him, and things just went from bad to worse for Cozy Jr. as well. So 2 front runners taken out in a pretty big display in the inner loop as Montesi now catching back up to the 99 through the S's. Could we have some post-fireworks displays of aggression here? I don't think so based off what we've seen from this series. These guys don't really do that, but unfortunate for both of them. That's going to affect their overall outcome, but I mean, they're still 5th, and you know, Montesi's down in 16th. A lot of action here. Cozy Jr., that's not going to sit well for a lot of guys when you get run over like that, Rachel.
No, it's really not, and I think that's going to impact his, of course, performance there, and it is a case of tunnel vision, as somebody just mentioned in the chat for us. He was focused on his braking, and that's the downside you've got when you're racing these things. If guys are more focused on how they've gotten into a rhythm. We're on lap 34 here, and they're tired from how these cars race. And he will have just come into the corner, braked at his normal spot. Oh, God, there's a car there. Problems, you know? Whereas there was a clean gap he could have gone for in the middle to shoot between those guys. If he'd have reacted a little bit sooner, he would have been okay. And I really don't like placing myself behind another car in a braking zone in these things because it varies so much on how and where people brake. There's the 5 and the 01. Paulson and Brown had a big smash there in the final corner. We'll have a quick look back, and it really didn't help the 01 very much. Travis Brown on the inside. Back end steps out. Oh, whips sideways, clips the 5. 5 goes round and misses everything. The 01 backs hard into the guardrail. Both of them clear the racing line, though. Wow, that could have been a much bigger crash, but that's 2 cars with more damage, and I'm surprised I've not seen more go around, to be honest. As a quick look at Cozy Jr. Now, he's got way more damage on his car than Jeff Ward did, but Preet's cleared Ward, by the way. Look at the gap. 3.1 seconds now over Jeff Ward. Spencer Preet has. That is a difference of broken car.
A lot of things have changed after this green flag pit stop from the first half of this race to what is now the second half of this 60-lap event. A lot of things changed, and we'll take an opportunity to step aside for just a moment, so don't go anywhere. For LSRTV's continuing coverage of the SESRA series, it's the left versus right 150 here at Watkins Glen. We'll be right back in just a moment.
The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Back live in upstate New York at Watkins Glen International. It's the SESRA Series left versus right 150 here on LSR TV. Welcome you back into the virtual booth. David Schildhouse, Rachel Whiteford, Taylor Fry on the call here. Brett Wheeler doing a great job bringing you all these sights and sounds of the racing action. And the man out front, Rachel, Spencer Preet, looking for win number 3 on the season here, coming up to 20 laps to go next time by. Seems to be in a great position to do so as he has built himself quite the lead over Jeff Ward, almost 5.5 seconds now.
Yeah, it certainly has, and wow, that is a huge gap he's building up, but this should probably last it really to the end of the race. We're on up 40 nearly at the moment, so that will be a big impact for him. And it's just a difference. Look at Cozy Jr., look how far he's fallen down. 5th place now from 3rd, and he's dropping again. There'll be Mark Arthur catching up to him. His last lap for Mark Arthur at 12. It's still faster for Cozy, so maybe he'll hold ahead of that one, but that's going to be a big advantage for him at this point in time. Ashton Slace looked like he was going to go further, but there's basically a 32-second gap to Jeff Ward. I don't think that's going to happen somehow, unless Jeff Ward basically crashes again. So right now, Schleiss is looking for 3rd place. Radford, though, he could close that down, but it's still about a 10 to 15-second gap. Going to be a difficult feat to achieve. Some interesting racing further down in the order as Jeff Ward's getting swallowed up by lapped cars now, who are just a little bit faster. Looking at the 16 car here, Steve Ritter. 29 car behind him. This is a good close race we're seeing. That's going to be a good opportunity for a pass here by the 29 car. He's getting much, much closer to the 16 here of Ritter. Ritter just powering through. but that gap steadily coming down. And the interesting part will come when they get really close and you're working out who's going to be going where, who brakes where. And that seems to be our big downfall tonight, is people recognizing other cars' braking differences. But it seems though Ritter's car just pushing a little bit harder. You see him just getting a little bit more aggressive on the curbs, getting closer to that to try and impact how his car will handle. But it's a sign of desperation when he's pushing that hard at this stage of the race. Because this kind of guy is mirror. And these mirrors are not a lot of information in these cars. It's difficult to see. And, well, all he can see is the 29 car, that big white bumper in front of him, behind him, sorry, the Ford Mustang. And he'll be watching it very closely, and it's going to affect how he looks out of his front window.
Always have to be aware of what's going on around you on the track. And Taylor, if you're the driver of the 29 sizing up Steve Ritter there in the 16, you know you're a little bit faster than him. How do you temper your patience to execute a clean pass here at Watkins Glen?
Just make him make a mistake. Intimidate him while at the same time not overdriving your car. It's pretty much like at Dover, what we saw last week. If you can't make the move, don't risk overdriving the car, and potentially here at Watkins Glen, getting into a grass, getting into a guardrail, sand trap, or just overdriving it in general, having a slow exit. But try and race to your best ability. If you get up to him, try and make him look in that mirror, and then while he's entering a corner, try and make him force a mistake, because if he makes a mistake, then that's a position, and a position matters, especially when you're close to getting on somebody in the points.
Absolutely. These points are tight. We looked at them coming into tonight's show, and the way things are going, yeah, we might see a guy like Spencer Preet, if he holds on to this thing and gets that win, creep just a little bit closer to Jeff Ward. It was only a few points to separate him. That could close up just a little bit more if things stay the way they are. And Jeff Ward, Rachel, I'm so surprised that he's fallen this far back from Spencer Preet. He came out on the cycle of green flag pit stops ahead and just, I don't know, put out the anchor and lost a lot of time. What do you think's caused that number 9 to being almost equal with the 00 to being just that much slower?
Well, I could point it at it. Actually, it's, on the right front corner. Aerodynamics. He just physically can't go as fast. His car is not as efficient. The damage there is costing him this much. And it's very critical with these cars. Just a small amount of damage, and that's not small, can affect how these cars handle. And you've got to be careful of that when you're lapping other traffic, because it's not necessarily about who you're racing. It's the guys who are in front of you, whether they're lapped on or the same lap. And right now, he's just not got the same aerodynamic grip on that inside of the corner. So he's losing time for his car, and it's going to affect him quite a bit.
Losing a lot of time, but still in a great position as he is in second place. He's 7.5 seconds back from the leader, but as you pointed out, it's another 32 seconds back to third place, Ashton Schleiss in the 19. So really not much more he can lose unless something goes catastrophically wrong for him. And he puts himself in a bad position if he just keeps the car on the track and continues to make the kind of lap times that he's been making all race long. Jeff Ward should be able to walk out of here with a second place finish nonetheless. And, I think he's going to feel okay with that. And if he holds on to that, we'll hear from him in the post-race show and get his thoughts on how much that damage, really affected his ability to win this race if he thought he had a chance to take it away from Preet there. But, that's the way these things go. But he's done so well here tonight, Taylor. He's built himself a really nice cushion. As I see a change for third place as Ashton Schleiss moves up. Or no, he's just warping a little bit, just a little bit of a connection issue for the 19. Apologize there, but Jeff Ward's done a great job. He's earned that huge cushion, so he can still cruise to a second place finish.
Yeah, and you want to get first place, but if your car physically cannot run to the best ability as first place, you got to take the second place. Yeah, second does suck, but it could have been a lot worse, especially with getting into it with a lap car and all that sort of stuff. Jeff Ward cruising to a second place, that's all he really needs, especially when it could have been catastrophically worse.
It absolutely could have. The point in which he caught that slower car, made contact going into the inner loop, he was very fortunate not to spin out or hit a barrier or anything like that. So all in all, came out relatively unscathed. It cost him a chance at a win, which is a lot of value there for Jeff Ward. But you still got to feel good about a second place finish when you are the points leader, Rachel. And knowing that a win is out of sight at this point, you take a lot of solace as a race car driver, knowing second place is the best you can do. But that's still good for the overall championship picture.
I think it is. Jeff Ward's in a comfortable position right now in terms of his points. I think that for the overall championship, yeah, second place is worth it. It's no worse than that. It could have been so much more for him today. It could have been so much less. But at the same time, it could have been catastrophic. He could have just had his car totaled in that incident. A hit to the front like that hard, he could have blown his motor. So he's very lucky that he's actually got a car that can still run in second place. The gap now 7.3, maybe more this time by. We'll have a look as he crosses the line here. But Jeff Ward still got a long way to go. It's going to be 33 seconds, 32 seconds back there to Ashton Schleiss, and they've got 15 laps to go. I think he can hang on. His car's not that terrible. I mean, his last lap was a 1:12.5, Schleiss a 12.5, so he's on pace with Schleiss there, and he's not really changed in terms of how that gap goes. Preet's just pulled away. So, realistically, yeah, he's not in a terrible position. We'll see Schleiss when he comes around the corner. He'll drop back possibly a second as well. So that gap is still 37 seconds back to Ashton Schleiss. I'm going to take a wild guess as he comes across, and we'll get that measurement. Yeah, there we go, 41. So he's holding pace with third place. It's not going to impact him too much.
A great run for Ashton Schleiss. I think he made his first start of the season last week. I remember mentioning his name, but given a great account for himself here at the road course. So not sure, and we'll talk to him in the post-race if he comes home in third. We'll see if this is really where he's comfortable or if he is more comfortable on the oval and just caught himself a great run here at the road course. But you know, these guys have a long break now until the next road course event. It's the penultimate race of the season, race number 19, before they see a road course again. And a lot of these guys are probably going to be pretty thankful for that they don't have to turn right again for a number of weeks, Taylor. So a lot of ovals between now and then, but this has proven to be a very entertaining race nonetheless. As we're getting down inside of 15 laps to go, it's still Spencer Preet out front. But I think some guys came into this race not really knowing what to expect from themselves. But, you know, they got to come out here with a little bit of confidence if they had a good run, right?
Absolutely, especially Spencer Preet and Jeff Ward. You know, probably one of these two came into this race not knowing if they were going to be up in the top 5 at all today. And here they are in the top 2, just, you know, cruising their way. Spencer Preet going to cruise to a win unless something happens. Hopefully I don't jinx that. And Jeff Ward, if I don't jinx anything, is going to cruise to a second place. And, you know, if they had a lot of confidence coming in, then they'll be even more confident heading into next week.
Remember talking after last week's race at Dover with Jeff Ward, and he said in his interview he wasn't really sure what to expect coming into Watkins Glen. Didn't want to necessarily go out and say he felt super comfortable or super confident about what run he may or may not have. But I think it's fairly evident he's in the top tier of talent here no matter what track they go to. So it's going to be good for him. But Spencer Preet's got to be loving the position he's in, up some 8.5 seconds over Jeff Ward, and just really getting around the racetrack in a nice way, not taking too many risks. And when you have that big of a lead, that's really all you have to do. Like you said earlier, Rachel, you don't have to win by a second or 5 seconds or 10 seconds, just win. And right now he's seemingly subscribing to that theory.
You know, somebody actually asked that question in the chat, is that with the lead that 00 has, do you think he's going to start backing off? I was actually going to say, yeah, I think he is, but I've looked at his numbers and he's not. It's, the funny part here is that I don't think Spencer Preet is backing off, and some racing drivers, and this is one of those things that I've always thought is the difference between great and good drivers, is that the good drivers, they're really fast, they're talented, but they can only operate at 100%. And to them, that's the only way they can race, which means sometimes they get into accidents because they're pushing too hard, and they have solo accidents, which is ridiculous. They have no way to switch down to like 90%. And the really great drivers, they can drop back to 90%, they can measure what they need to do, and it's about strategy. And when you throw that strategy on top of the talent, you get a great race. But I think he's actually still performing about the same pace he was before, and that's going to be difficult for him. The tyre deg is kicking in now, so he's losing time, but I think he's still pushing just as hard, because that's the way he wants to race, that's the way he knows how to race, and it's a tricky format when you're racing in the lead and you've not got that measurement. You've got to have the discipline, really, to back it off and know what you need to achieve and not push too hard. I mean, 9 seconds is great, but honestly, with a 9-second gap, I'd be cruising. I'd be knocking out 13s. I'd be knocking out maybe 14s. I know I've got time to play with, so there's no real rush. I mean, 13s are fine. I'd measure what Jeff Ward's doing. He can't tell exactly what lap time he's performing, but I'd say keep that gap at about 5 seconds, and you've got a good wiggle room, but it's going to open up even further yet again, and I think it's borderline unnecessary. But some guys like to beat the guy in second by as much as they can. There's a, let's just say, a genital gesticulating fashion.
I appreciate the alliteration.
Oh, see, going too hard. Going too hard. Like I said, told you so. I told you so.
You called it, and that's probably his come to Jesus moment right there, where we may see him back that pace off, knowing there's just no reason to fly around at 100%. And to further your point that you were making about some guys not being able to operate at anything other than 100%, some drivers, when they try and back their pace down, they actually throw themselves out of the rhythm. When you are in your rhythm and you know what's making you put down great lap times, you stick to that and you stay in that rhythm. But you shake that up or you try and back it off, all of a sudden you're thinking instead of driving instinctively, and that can cause you to have some problems. Or as we saw in that case with Spencer Preet, maybe just trying to maintain too much of a pace in a position where you just really don't need to. He's up 11 seconds and he was continually running a second or so faster than Jeff Ward in second place and Ashton Schleiss in third. So, you know, that little off into one there, he was lucky to get away with it and bring it back, not spin it out. And so perhaps that's that reality check as we get to 10 laps to go next time by. He just doesn't need to run at 100%. Even
if Jeff Ward were to gain a second a lap because of Spencer Preet just, you know, going at it like 80 or 70%, it's still not enough time, because we're heading, next time by is 10 laps to go. Spencer Preet is just going to cruise unless he makes a mistake going in too hard, or, you know, yeah, just too hard. That's why he's got to tone it down a little bit, you know, just cruise on his way and not risk a mistake or anything like that.
And even with that mistake, Rachel, looking at the timing and scoring from Joe Real Timing, he still ran 0.7 of a second faster than Jeff Ward, even with that mistake. So that gives you an appreciation of how much pace Spencer Preet has in the 00, just how much faster he is than Jeff Ward. Even messing up turn one, he still gained 0.7 of a second.
Yeah, he did, and that's a big advantage for him there, that he's got such a big gap, but at the same time, that's a sign of pushing too hard. He's pushed the tyres beyond what he needed to, and it's going to cost him. And that's not something you really want to do in terms of putting... It would have scared him into relaxing, I think. It scared him into taking it a bit more gentle as he goes through these corners. And like I said, one's the biggest braking zone on the track. I mean, he'd be braking about, well, here, probably just before the boards even start, and backs it in, and once again goes wide. Stop going so deep, Spencer Preet. Do I have to yell at you from the commentary booth? Slow down. Seriously, no need. You've got 11 seconds, dude. Back it down. And he's cooking it every single lap now, and that's going to start costing him with 9 to go.
If there's one thing we've come to know about Spencer Preet covering here in this series and seeing him race other places, is he is 100% basically all the time. He's a very aggressive driver. He's a very fast driver as well. And it's because of that he has a lot of success, but that can also be to his detriment. And I promise you, if he places a wheel wrong and takes himself out of this win because he was just trying to put down great lap times lap after lap, he's going to be kicking himself. And I don't think he's going to get to that point. Now he's had 2 really big mistakes there going into one. If it's not him and it's not you in his ear, Rachel, or us talking about up here, somebody's got to be getting into his ear and tell him, listen, there's just no need for this. There's just no need. Back it down just 10%. And you're going to be fine inside of 10 laps to go. There's just, you don't have to do that, to go back to the genitalia gesticulating that you were discussing there so gently and eloquently. It's going to be a win. Just get it to the checkered flag. But Taylor, we see him into one. He's still pushing hard, and that's Spencer Preet to a T.
Yeah, it's tough to get a driver to just take it nice and easy, because you want to run hard no matter what situation you're in, but this is one of those times where it's necessary for the driver to slow down and take the pace down and all that sort of stuff, because you're pacing yourself to a nice win if you don't make a catastrophic mistake. And if you keep running really, really hard, you're going to make that mistake. And we just don't want to see Spencer Preet make that mistake, even though he's probably like saying, if he's watching the broadcast back, he'll probably be saying like he's done this hundreds of times and, you know, he's experienced with all this sort of stuff. I'm just watching him in his cockpit. He's just fighting this wheel. It's one of these times he's going to overcorrect it, or just not going to end well if Preet continues to run like this. But although he's running at his own pace, but oh man,
stepped over the edge.
Yeah.
He just stepped over the edge there on corner exit, grabbed too much of that dirt runoff, and the rear end tried to come around there, and he had to use the brakes, using the front tires in turn, to keep that car off the guardrail. That's not the way to get it done, man, when you're coming down like that.
Tires are really being burnt up now. He almost spun it out and almost locked them up completely, so he's just really fighting this wheel at this point in time, and it's really difficult for Spencer to hang on to this car, so I keep an eye on it for these last 8 laps, because if he's going to win, it's not going to be very easy for him. He's going to be dirt tracking it.
Making it harder on himself than he needs to. I can hear Rachel just gnashing her teeth together in my headset. Even though she hasn't said a word yet, I can hear it all the way over here from England. I know you're going crazy over this, Rachel. Just for the fans watching at home, how hard is it to get a driver to back down when he's so fast and so competitive?
If you've got a spotter sitting there for you who can be over the pit box talking to you, not hard at all. Because I mean, one of my favorite things I actually did in the iRacing service wasn't the driving. I worked with a very good friend of mine as their crew chief for the NIS series, which is the year-long series that follows the real race circuits in the Cup series. And I worked with him, and he was a very fast, aggressive driver. And just having me there talking in his ear helped to calm him down. And I could talk to him about his pace, about his laps, and about the numbers he was doing. I could talk to him about gaps. I could encourage him, and I knew when he was going to get a bit excited as he pushes again. And it was you got to build that relationship between the spotter, or the crew chief in this case, and the driver, because you play both roles realistically, spotter and crew chief. But you could sit there and you could learn their pattern, learn when they're getting wound up, learn when to start calming them down, learn when to get them to push. And it was about understanding how they're feeling, how they're talking to you, and you could change how they race, and they might not like it, but they'll listen to you because you're seeing things they aren't or don't need to concentrate on. And it was always a big advantage for him that he had that there as almost a psychological influence when you could modify his driving style. And, I mean, Linus was a great driver, is a great driver still, fantastic. In fact, he just won this last season's the Rallycross Championship, actually, so his road's been just as good as his oval. But, it was all about making sure you calm them down. Look, you say to Preet, if I'm on his pit box, I'm saying, look, you got 6 laps to go. You got 12 seconds to play with. Just brake earlier than you need to. Calm down. Come in, just roll the corners. Just roll the center. And that's what you're repeating to them constantly. Roll the center. Look at this lap traffic. This is going to be hectic for him right now. He's got to be careful. And they say, look, you've got lap cars coming up. Just be careful. Pick your passing place. You've got time to play with. If you need to sit behind them for a corner, sit behind them for a corner. It isn't going to cost you anything. You've got, essentially, right now he has 13 seconds and 149 thousandths of a second to play with. He's got loads of time. Don't worry about it. It's absolutely fine. Look at this. This is not a good place to be as cars are wrecking around him. Oh, nearly wrecking there. That was the 51 that got into some trouble. But, it's like, give him space. Give him time. Don't go into the corner that close behind him when you've got 2 guys running side by side into the bus stop, which is a recipe for clangers. Make sure you're in a position where you're paying attention at the right moments. And you focus things they can let go. And in this case, right now, he's just really not handling it too well. And it's, I think, Cozy coming back who just had a report that he's not handling it too well. No, his wheel's a little crooked. He's actually got some steering issues from the impact he had. So he's holding on, but he's in 4th place right now, which is a great recovery drive. But he has got the 91 of Radford closing in. It's only 8 seconds. That could change if he has a problem. Shai's looking great for the moment. Ward not got a chance to really pull this one back, but it looks as though Preet has calmed down a little bit. He's definitely backing his corners more, and that's the problem when you're a driver on your own, is that if you're aggressive, and yeah, he may have done this 100 times, but you've got to adapt to the circumstances in each race rather than just going for the same rigid mentality.
Each race is different.
Absolutely right on all accounts there. And Rebellion Racing, that's who Spencer Preet drives for. He's got Michael Cozy Jr. there with him. He's got Kyle Gilbert there with him as well, and Brian McRae. And, he's got those guys that are able to talk to him on the team communication. And, they got to be telling him if he's not heard it already, But, Rachel, I'll ask you this. We sit up here, we analyze what we see on the track and relay it as we see fit, not knowing everything that maybe is going on behind the scenes. Do you think there's some possibility that Spencer Preet's just out there having the time of his life, laughing and having a ball, seeing how much he can throw this car around the racetrack for the last 5 laps or so?
considering we've done 56 laps around Watkins Glen, he's now on 25 lap-old tyres. And he's in an Xfinity Series car, which is probably the worst car to race on the road courses. No, he's not having the time of his life. He's sitting there sweating in his racing seat. His hands are sore. He's annoyed. He wants this to be over. He is counting down his laps like the days left to his birthday. He is desperate for this thing to be over because this is not a nice experience. The Cup car has enough power to make it loose around a corner. The truck has got a light rear end to get it around corners, which makes them fun to drive on road courses. This thing handles like a tank in syrup. It is tight. It's about momentum. It's not about being nimble. It's twisty. And it just doesn't like turning. And on old tyres, it hates turning. You are fighting this car every second of the race. That's why his wheels all over the place. He is fighting to keep this thing in the line he wants it to be now. It's gone from being the the nimble, fast, thoroughbred horse he was on at the start of the race to a bullish old nag that doesn't want to go where he wants to send it. It wants to go where it wants to go and eat the grass at the side of the road. And he's been trying to eat quite a lot of the grass at the side of the road, to be fair, in these last couple of laps. But it's not a nice experience. It's tough. I think people forget just how brutal sometimes sim racing can be in terms of the car handling, that after a long period of time, and especially in a difficult to drive car like this, it's exhausting. And he will be drained at the end of this race. I guarantee when we interview him, he'll be tired.
I appreciate all the equestrian references you've dropped here tonight as well. That's job well done, as he just lapped past 5th place Troy Radford. So that leaves 4 cars on the lead lap. Michael Cozy Jr. there in 4th, the last one on the lead lap. Ashton Schleiss still there in 3rd, Jeff Ward 2nd. As we're getting down here, it'll be 2 laps to go next time by for Spencer Preet, who's done a good job getting through these slower cars. One more car, a couple more cars in front of him there. I see Jason Anderson and Brian McRae will be the next 2 cars he has to deal with here into the outer loop. Gets past Jason Anderson. Nice and tidy there, Taylor. So, Spencer Preet gave us all something to talk about over the last 10 laps or so with his exciting driving while clearly out front. But as he gets close to wrapping this thing up, knowing he's within striking distance of his 3rd checkered flag of the season, I expect we'll see the fireworks calm down just a little bit.
Absolutely. I would say more. I would say, even though he's giving us exciting racing, he's giving me stress. He's giving me a whole lot of stress because I'm just seeing that wheel turn to the opposite side every quarter. He's almost completely dirt tracking it at this point because of how much he's throwing it in and making the tires get more heat in them and wearing them down and all that. So it's definitely giving me a stress just watching him correct it and nearly overcorrecting it at times. So, as he's coming down to these last final laps, he's probably going to take the last lap pretty much just as aggressive, but hopefully a little calmer, knowing that if he messes up, he's going to have a little bit of time to recover, but there'll be that slim chance where he might not have any sort of time to recover if he ends up like in the tire barriers or like deep in the grass or the sand trap in turn 7. As he's coming down to the white flag, it's just going to be just better run it nice and calm because he's going to be cruising to a 15-second lead. And we said this last week, checking out of the hotel, and he's packing his bags and he'll be heading out to the airport, and he's wanting to heading to the airport a little early than expected.
Absolutely, the bellhop's ready to get him going and on his way as the white flag is in the air here at Watkins Glen International. Spencer Preet will take it first, up some 15 seconds over Jeff Ward. It's been an absolute clinic here by the driver of the 00. Came in tonight 2nd in points. The man he's chasing, Jeff Ward, had a great exchange after that green flag pit stop, Rachel, but it's going to be Spencer Preet that probably walks away with this thing on top if he holds it together for one more lap. Job well done, and we'll see a little bit of a shakeup in the points after this one is completed.
Yeah, we certainly will, and those points changes will make things really interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing that, but at the moment it's going to be about finishing this race, and they've got this final lap to go, and that'll be it, and they'll be happy, I think. But I think they'll be looking forward to getting back on an oval. Turning left will feel really good after this.
Well, he took checkered flag at a short track at Bristol, took the checkered flag at a 1.5-mile cookie cutter at Atlanta. So he's won on 2 different types of racetracks already this season, and now Spencer Preet with 2 more corners to work will get himself a victory on the road course. So all that will leave will be a plate track, which we will see, well, later this season. So he'll have to wait to get one of those. But off the final corner, for the 60th time here tonight, it's going to be Spencer Preet walking away with the checkered flag in the left versus right 150 at Watkins Glen. Spencer Preet, congratulations on a job well done there. We'll wait for second and third to roll across the start-finish line as well, but they're all chasing Spencer Preet, and boy, what an absolute job well done for him. He's got to feel really good about what he's done here tonight.
I think what sealed the deal for Spencer Preet was the fact that Jeff Ward just had an altercation with lap traffic before the first pit stop, and I don't know what would the outcome have been different if Jeff Ward were to have gotten more of that damage repaired, or maybe even all of it. Probably could have been, maybe it could have been like a 5-second gap between first and second, but we wouldn't know because Jeff never went down pit road, or he did, just never got that damage fully repaired. And it's just very unfortunate for Jeff Ward, but he's not going to be losing too many points. The points battle between first and second will definitely be tighter, but it definitely won't. Jeff Ward will definitely won't have to stress about it for the next few weeks.
We'll come back and take a look at tonight's unofficial results here from the Glen and talk to our top 3 finishers as well, so don't go anywhere. LSRTV will be back in just a moment for the post-race show of the left versus right 150 here at Watkins Glen.
My name is Steven Corpenos. I'm a senior web developer here at iRacing, and I work on the beta UI. It's funny because iRacing has been around for 10 years, but we want to keep delivering the best possible user experience to our customers, and we've found that the old UI isn't exactly what we're trying to deliver in 2018. We want to use new features and provide the best possible experience when using the sim. One of the projects that I've been working on is some custom heat racing configuration for hosted races. We've been listening to our customers. Everyone's been asking for custom heat races. Maybe you want to tweak a few things with the preset iRacing configurations. Well, now you can using the beta UI. So once you're at the home page of the beta UI, you just go to create a race. Then from there you go to your set race options. And you'll notice here under event types, you can actually choose heat racing. First, I'm going to show you how to create a new format from scratch. You can choose the number of entrants. And as you can see, when I made that change, the change was actually reflected on the right side in the graph. Also, you can use the estimated duration at the bottom of the graph when you're changing the length to see what the total duration of your event will be. In addition, you can customize every aspect of the session information, practice, qualifying, heat races, consolations, and of course, the final feature race. Because the beta UI allows us to develop features that are robust and complex, this feature will be exclusively available on the beta UI. Once you've made all of the changes, you can hit save. Say you forgot what you selected. You can always preview it using the preview format button. We are very excited to release the brand new heat racing configuration feature that will be available in Season 3 of iRacing.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of LSRTV and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Live Sim Racing LLC and iRacing.com Motorsport Simulations. LSRTV would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.
Welcome back to Watkins Glen International for the post-race show on LSRTV. The left versus right 150 is in the books. We'll take a look at your unofficial finishing order. You have a Spencer Preet bringing him to the checkered flag by some 15 seconds over Jeff Ward. Had a valiant fight in the first half of this race, but it all went the Double O's way in the second half. Ashton Schleiss, great run in third in the 19. Michael Cozy Jr. comes home in the fourth position. Troy Radford will round out the top 5. Travis Brown will come home 6th. Rick Thompson in 7th. Derek Paulson with a nice job there in 8th. It's going to be Steve Ritter 9th, and Mark Arthur comes home in 10th.
11th place tonight, Jonathan Smith with Matt Ridgway, Brian McRae, Taylor Butcher-Benjamin with Mike Montesi, John Johnson, Jason Anderson, Doug Johnson, Jason Taylor in 19th, with 20th being David Nedsell, 21st, Fred Thompson, Zachary Sprung, Carl Vincent Gilbert holding on with his stop-and-go car, Wally Wilson, and Kevin Dye.
Actually, I want to run back that top 10. I completely got that wrong. My apology. It was Spencer Preet, Jeff Ward, Ashton Schleiss, top 3. Michael Cozy Jr., Troy Radford, Mark Arthur in 6th. Derek Paulson, 7th. Travis Brown, 8th. Rick Thompson, 9th. And Steve Ritter, 10th. My apologies. So we'll move on to talk to our winner here, Spencer Preet. At least I got that one right. We'll bring him up here into the booth. And for the third time here this season, Spencer Preet takes home a checkered flag tonight. It was on the road course by 15 seconds. Spencer, you really laid the wood to him, my man. What more is there to say?
Oh, I mean, I really love Watkins Glen. It's probably my favorite out of all the road courses. Definitely the favorite to drive a stock car on. So I look forward to it every time I get to race here. But I feel kind of bad because me and Jeff were definitely gonna have a close race. I don't think either one of us really totally showed our hand in the first run, and I don't think either one of us were really kind of pulling away at that point. So it was looking like it was going to be really close and come down to the stop and where we cycled out after that. But he got into trouble and then kind of sealed it at that point. I really just had to run my own thing from that point on.
54 out of 60 laps saw you out front. How much did you prepare for Watkins Glen coming into tonight that allowed you to have such a dominant performance, or was it just you simply being comfortable on a road course?
I mean, I put in a little bit of time, a little bit more than I guess I normally would, but I mean, it's really kind of just a comfort thing. You know, you kind of find how you want to approach the track, because there's a lot of different ways you can take different sections, and so you kind of figure out where you want to push it and where you want to make up your time, and where you're willing to give up a little bit of time if it means you can make some up elsewhere. So just kind of picking my spots, and like I said, I love this track, so it's a lot of fun. Even in a really bad fixed setup like this is, it's still a lot of fun to wheel around and just like go all out, especially when the track starts heating up, like with this new dynamic sky. Like it was just getting slicker and tighter in a bunch of spots, to where it was just, you're running out of grip and still trying to wheel it as hard as you were at the beginning of the run. It's just a lot of fun.
Well, speaking of that, that makes a nice segue into my next question. You had all of us up here in the broadcast booth on pins and needles over the last 15 laps or so, as you were pushing it seemingly 100%, even with that huge lead and a couple of offs, a couple of missed entries. You were still just pushing 100%. Is that just you being the race car driver that you are, or are you just trying to build up the biggest lead possible?
Well, I'd be lying to you if I said that I wasn't trying to push it almost to kind of prove a point, because
Told you.
I feel bad, because it's like, it seems like so much when me and Jeff are having races like this, something happens to one of us that kind of seals the deal and you know, ends it. And I wanted to make sure that the lead was big enough to where I would feel better about it, and that I didn't just win because he had that incident with the lap car in the bus stop, and that I actually would have had the speed to beat him in that second run if that had never happened. But that, and I don't really know how to back it down. I kind of did in the last like couple laps, because at that point the tires were really gone, and I just wanted to make sure I didn't do anything stupid, especially in turn 1. But yeah, I mean, part of it was trying to prove a point, and part of it was just Just that's how I race.
Well, you certainly proved your point. You put the big flex on them, as they like to say, and you come home with your third win here on the season. So I'll give you the opportunity to say hello to friends, family, sponsors, and everyone else who helps you and that 00 team get to victory lane.
Just a shout out to everyone on Rebellion, Cozy and his stream, everyone watching. You guys are putting on the broadcast. Everyone at SESRA that keeps this league running. Big thanks to them, and yeah, that's it.
Your winner here tonight in the 00, Spencer Preet. We'll look forward to seeing you next week at New Hampshire.
Thank you. See you then.
All right, Rachel, you called it. You said he was doing it just to show him how fast he could go, and he wasn't shy about saying it. But we'll move on to talking to second place, the man that he beat up on so bad. That's Jeff Warden. You've caught up with him.
I certainly have. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us, Jeff Ward. Commiserations Day, second place, but it all came down to that collision early in the race in the bus stop. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that really hurt us, sir. Obviously, I had a talk with Fred there after the race, and it was just a miscommunication. We just had such a quick closing rate on him. You know, he was just a little off pace. Actually, he's doing about 10 mile an hour through there, but I just closed so quick. I tried to shoot that gap. I thought he was going to stay on the left because it looked like he kind of overshot that entry. And he turned back right and pretty much destroyed our left front and our straightaway speed. So that was pretty much it. I'm surprised we was still able to get second. I guess some guys behind us had trouble, but it doesn't hurt us too bad on points. We lost 1 point to Spencer, but I think we'll still be leading the championship and the segment points as well. So didn't hurt us too bad. I think we had a race winning car there. You know, we played the strategy kind of like I planned on going into it. Just kind of sit back and then towards the end of the run try to get out to a lead and stretch it. But like Spencer said, it would have been a close one with pit stops and all. And congrats to him. Like I said, he stayed out of trouble, and that's what you got to do to win championships.
Yeah, you certainly do. Well, either way, a fantastic race from you, and the points still matter. Second place is huge for you. Going into the end of the season, of course, it's going to be huge in terms of an advantage to keep getting good results, even if it is the second place now and again. Are you focused now on the very end of this series?
Yeah, I stay pretty focused. I got in some laps here practicing, so I'm really taking it pretty seriously. I like to think, you know, the older I get, well, I'm 35, so it's kind of old in sim racing days, I guess. There's a lot of young guys out here, but I like to think the older I get, the more I care about these championships, because never know how long we'll be able to keep running. But yeah, I try to stay focused, man, and like I said, last race, the further we can stretch out on the points without them being able to reset, then the better off we are.
Certainly is. Anybody you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, thanks to you guys for doing the broadcast. Thanks to SESRA, everybody that puts work into the league. Thanks to my teammate Derek and Loud Pedal Motorsports, and thanks to friends and family.
Well, there you go. Thank you very much for joining us. Jeff Ward coming on today in second place.
All right, thank you.
All right, and I caught up with third place of Ashton Slice. And Ashton, you had an okay card today. You survived for third place. You battled with Michael Cozy in the last few laps. Just all in all, how was your day today? I know it wasn't as to us, it really wasn't too eventful. But how was it for you, though?
It was a fun race. Pretty difficult, but still managed to get through it. Those last couple laps, Cozy was coming back through, and I thought he was almost going to get me because of lap traffic, and I was overdriving all the corners, and that was another cool thing. It was whenever the sun came out, you had to back off your braking zone by almost 20% of what you would usually do, and it just made for a whole new race, and man, it was a lot of fun.
So where do you see, like, we're going into, I believe next week is New Hampshire. Let me quickly fact check that real quick. Round 9 at New Hampshire. Yes, it is. Okay, so how confident are you heading into New Hampshire for the Lobster Run 201 next week?
Not at all. I've never ran at New Hampshire, and I'll just have to work through that. I'd probably start out in the back and hopefully work my way up, but yeah, not too confident with that.
right. And who do you have to thank for your tonight, for your third place?
I got to thank all my teammates at Rebellion Racing. Brian McCrae, Mark Arthur, Spencer Pree, congrats to him for winning the race. Michael Cozy, Travis Brown, and special thanks to Kyle. He came out last week, asked if I wanted to race with these guys, and I obliged, and later that night raced the Dover race. So to come out and finish third in my second race, that's pretty neat.
You got 14th last week. You come home in a podium finish. So far, your first 2 races have been quite eventful, and we'll hope to see you at New Hampshire and maybe have a good race there, even though you don't look to be too confident, but you'll probably do good there because New Hampshire is very easy of a track to learn and have a good time there. So we'll hopefully see you next week at New Hampshire.
All right, thank you. See you then.
See ya.
All right, that was a look and a word from your top 3 finishers here. And Rachel, a pretty fun road course race. It definitely got your energy level up, which is exciting. We won't see another road course until round number 19 at Sonoma, but these boys put on a pretty good show like they always do for turning left and right.
Yeah, they certainly did. And don't worry, I'm still going to be just as excited when we get to the other oval courses on the season. The racing in SESRA is something special, and it's something I really enjoy seeing every week. So hopefully you guys will join us for New Hampshire, which is flat, and it's fast, and it's really, really good racing.
We'll look forward to doing that next Thursday night, December 13th, from New Hampshire Motor Speedway, the Magic Mile for the Lobster 200. I wonder how many times we'll say Lobster, and with varying accents there within. But we'll leave it there for tonight, and thank you for tuning in and making us a part of your day wherever you tuned in from. For Rachel Whiteford, Taylor Fry, I'm David Schildhouse. Big thanks to Brett Wheeler, bringing you the sights and sounds of the racing action, and we'll look forward to seeing you next Thursday night for round number 9 of the SESRA series right here on LSRTV, your home for live sim racing, and a good night from Watkins Glen.
The following is a special presentation of iRacing on LSRTV, your home for sim racing.